Hello everybody, mic check 1 2 1 2. Paul, welcome in. DTP, hello. GC. Hey, DTP, I actually just was reviewing the signups for the Higher Spartan. Your class is coming up in a couple of weeks. Just a reminder. So make sure you have that date set. I know we've talked about it previously, but all right, this afternoon, we're going to do something a little different. Usually, I will go over the full watch list first, my personal watch list, that is, and then I'll talk about side charts, and then I take charting requests. This afternoon, I want to do it a little bit different. I want to take charting requests first, and then go over my full watch list second. This is just because I want to make sure that I'm getting to everybody's requests, and also I know people tend to join into these streams kind of late, so I don't want people to miss, what I'm talking about as far as my watch list goes. So let me post this up here in the chat. I will be taking charting requests first, and then I will be reviewing my personal watch list for tomorrow. You don't have access to type in the chat unless you're subscribed to the channel, so make sure to subscribe so that you can type, and I'll review any stocks that you want me to review. David, welcome in. iCandy, hello. Salo, welcome in. Nabil, Yasid, Law, hello. All right, so we're doing something different this afternoon. Taking charting requests first, then reviewing the watch list second. All right, let's get to those requests. So somebody right off the bat is already mentioning Boeing. GC, I see that you mentioned Boeing there. So we'll review that one. All right, Boeing on the daily chart time frame. So I usually will start my analysis on the daily chart time frame. Sometimes I'll glance at the weekly, but I'm familiar with the price action of Boeing on the weekly, so I don't need to take a look at it. Boeing has definitely been in a downtrend. This is a long series of lower highs as well as lower lows that's been forming over quite some time. This is months and months and months worth of data here. Boeing is interesting. It's really at an interesting point. If you've been following any of my charting platforms or call outs recently, you know that Boeing has been on our watch list. It most recently had this double bottom pattern here shaped up on the daily, so that's going to be a W formation. There's your bottom one and then bottom two, and so there's bottom one there, there's bottom two there. We broke the neckline right here around $210 or so, and then started to base and kind of consolidate for quite some time. So last week, this was a big watch for us. Last week, we were looking at Boeing as it was trading within this range here underneath the 200 EMA. So the 200 EMA was acting as a level of dynamic resistance. We had a bit of consolidation there. And then there was a news catalyst that sent Boeing over the top. So we got the range break over the top, we got the gap up, and it has since not done much, right? So we had like an inside day on Boeing. It did run up one day and then had an inside day the next day. So that means it did not create a higher high. It did not create a lower low. Let me move this to the 5-minute time frame. You can see this a little easier. This was just a lot of chop before it broke over the previous day's close and ran up at the end of day. So does Boeing deserve to be on anybody's watch list from here? Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you called this one out. Without a doubt, Boeing, it does deserve to be on our watch list, and it, in fact, does make my watch list for tomorrow as well. So I'm looking for, it's just a very simple trade here. I'm just looking for a continuation. I just want to continuously see higher highs put in on this. And if it keeps doing so, it will keep making my watch list. We're now up and over that 200 EMA. We have confirmed the double bottom pattern. We've recently broke out of the range. We've got a positive news catalyst pushing the stock up, and earnings is upcoming, which could be another potential catalyst for this stock. So for Boeing, what am I looking for? I want to see a break of $227. All right, so $227 for the continuation trade up. That's going to be The resistance point, the most recent resistance point, that's noted. From here, I think there will be some slight resistance near 230. If not, then it will definitely be around 233, 232.5 based off of this peak. And if Boeing can get over that, if Boeing can get over 230, let's just say 234, then it gets really interesting. Because leading up to this point, we've had this long series of lower highs as well as lower lows being pushed or being shown here, right? So a break of this high would mean that we are potentially putting in higher highs and could be breaking this long downtrend. So we'll see what happens. I don't know that happens before earnings. It might lead up. It might be a decision that earnings will have to make. The numbers that come out on earnings. It might be a decision that report makes for this stock. But as far as tomorrow goes, yeah, 100% Boeing makes the watch list. Great call out. I'm glad that you mentioned it. It'll be a long idea over 227. I want to see it hold up over 220, but you know me, I'm not that short biased trader. So I don't really care if it doesn't break 227. I don't care what it does underneath 227, but if it breaks that level, I'm here for it and I'll be ready to trade it. All right, if you're just joining into the stream, we're doing something different this afternoon. I'm taking charting requests first, and then I will be reviewing my watch list, my personal watch list, second. So let's move on to the next one. So against the law, mentioned Snapchat here. Let's see, you said it looks very bearish on the daily chart time frame with a gap. A little confused because it has a daily hammer candle, but also very oversold. So I agree. What he's mentioning here is that it is oversold, right? If we're just looking at the RSI indicator, anything below 30 on the RSI does typically indicate a stock that's oversold, while anything over 70 on the RSI indicator indicates something that is overbought. But we cannot use the RSI as an indicator by itself, because if we're just going off of, is it oversold or overbought, on this date here, it was saying that it was oversold, but the price action here was it was still trading at $55. Since then, the stock has continued to fall and fall and fall. So we can't really rely on the RSI indicator by itself. I like to use the MACD in conjunction with the RSI. So if you're looking at this as a potential reversal, what I like to see is a recently oversold or overbought RSI, and then I want to see a MACD signal line cross here. We're not getting, so we do have the recently oversold RSI, but we're not getting that MACD cross yet. I have a trend line drawn here around $34, so I'm going to have to back this up to the weekly chart time frame. It does seem that there was a gap there. I'd have to, let me change the time interval here. Maybe do 3 years on the daily. All right, so this is a very big gap on the chart for Snapchat, and that gap has yet to be filled. All right, so one interesting thing about the market is that 90% of these gaps, that's those big gray shaded areas, 90% of those gaps get filled at some point or another, and they typically will happen on a big news event such as earnings reports. So that's what this gap up was, and that's what this gap down was. This gap up that started this whole uptrend here was also earnings as well. So the top side of the gap and the bottom side of the gap will act as natural points of support and resistance. Since this gap is yet to be filled, we do have big support at 34.5 for Snapchat. It's come down to, it's pretty close to that level. It's at 36 right now. So I don't know if this bounces here or continues to push down. I agree with you 100%. It does look bearish. It's a negative news catalyst, being the earnings report. It's basically doing the same thing that Boeing was doing, which was putting in those lower highs as well as those lower lows. Can it bounce from here and make a move up? Sure. In the short term, yes, I would say so. But does that mean I'm overall bullish on the stock and that it's reversing its trend? I wouldn't be convinced if it just did that, right? So if it just bounced temporarily, I could see that. Maybe a bounce from, what's it at now? 38, a bounce from 38 up to maybe 40 or 42, sure, I can see that. But as far as the macro trend goes, the big trend, the overall trend, I wouldn't be convinced that this is reversing until it does start to put in those higher highs, which would mean that it probably would need to break $48. But even if it breaks 48, then what do we have right overhead? That 50 EMA. That's going to be a dynamic level of resistance. Then we have the whole number at 50, which is also going to be a natural point of resistance. All of that leads up to this Snapchat, in my opinion, for it to be truly breaking this downtrend and back on the upside, should be breaking, or it needs to be over $50. Can it reverse in the short term? Sure. If we look at this on the 5-day, 5-minute time frame, I mean, that's an aggressive sell, right? So you could say, okay, well, it was making lower lows all the way down. Now we're near support. If it doesn't make a lower low, then the next move naturally would be a move back up, a higher high. So for a day trade, I wouldn't be upset about that. I mean, I'm looking at this as using the trend line break strategy. I've made videos on this strategy before, but it's one way to indicate a trend change. It did make a lower low on this day, but it started to push back up. So maybe a break of like 38.5 could send this up to 40. You're looking for that 2% profit margin there. You would have that, right? You've got more than enough, double that. You've got over 4%. So even if this made like a 50-cent run or 75-cent run, you would hit 2%. So 38.5, if you're looking to day trade that, 38.5 would be my level to watch for Snapchat going into tomorrow. But look, the daily chart time frame, I mean, this is below the 200 EMA. So the difference between with what Snapchat's doing versus what Boeing is doing right now, which is the stock that we just reviewed, is that Boeing is overall on a downtrend, right, making lower highs and lower lows, but it's back over that 200 EMA, which is a big deal because a stock trading above the 200 EMA is considered to be in an uptrend, while a stock trading below the 200 EMA is considered to be in a downtrend. So Boeing's over that 200 EMA, Snapchat is well below it. One way to increase your chances of being profitable and correct on a day trade is to trade with the overall trend on the daily chart time frame. So let me say that again. One way to increase your chances of being profitable on a day trade is to trade with what the overall trend is on the daily chart time frame. So if you're already trading with the trend and the trend is up and you're going long, you increase your chances of being correct on the trade by the end of the day. So it's difficult to say, right? Does Snapchat bounce here and can you go long and can you make money on it? Yes, but would you be trading with the overall trend? No. So for that reason, I won't be adding Snapchat to my personal list, not until it gets over $50. All right, if you're just tuning in, I'm taking charting requests first. Check out that pinned message, taking charting requests first. Then I will be reviewing my personal watch list for tomorrow. You must be subscribed to the channel to post up anything, to post up any ticker that you want me to review. So subscribe first, wait a little bit. I think it's a 2-minute wait time. Then you can post. All right, Ace Vibes posted QCOM over 193. That's an ascending triangle. Let's see if that's truly an ascending triangle. Okay, I could see that. I had that pegged more as a range, but I can see what you're talking about with that being an ascending triangle. So the formation that Ace is talking about is a bullish continuation pattern known as the ascending triangle. So it's a flat top level of resistance with a series of higher lows all being compressed to a point. And the idea is that it breaks that point and puts in a big higher high above whatever that flat top level of resistance is. So Ace, you mentioned QCOM over 193 as a potential trade. Let me back this up to the max available time frame here so you can see 193.5. That is truly the all-time highs. All right, so there is no historical resistance above that level for QCOM, which is a big deal because this This is one of my A+++ setups right here. This really is a super good setup. I love the pattern forming. I love the longevity of the pattern. You're looking at 2.5 months of this shaping up. I love the fact that there's no resistance overhead, historically speaking, from a price action standpoint. This has a lot of potential to break out and run. It's just a matter of timing it properly. So does QCOM deserve to be on our watch list tomorrow? Absolutely. I had this pegged more as a range, though. I will say that. I do see that you're looking at that as an ascending triangle. That's fine. I see the resistance here, support there, so I would say that that's maybe more of a range, but both are true, right? Patterns are subjective, and this is the market, so you see it as you will. To wait for this to get over 193.5, though, I don't think you need to do that. And here's why. 193.5, while that is the all-time high, while that is the likely resistance point above where the stock is currently trading at, it is not the major point of resistance. If we look at these candles here and look at the bodies of these candles, where are all the bodies of these candles closing below? They're all closing below 190, right? So that makes 190 a more significant resistance point than something like 193.5. How many times has 190 been hit and rejected? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times, arguably. Give or take some, give or take 1 or 2. Whereas 193.5, how many times has that been hit and rejected? Once. So 1 versus, let's just say 10. We'll play it safe. 1 rejection versus 10 rejections. What do you think is the true point of resistance here? Is it 193.5 or is it 190? It's 190, right? So I don't think that you necessarily, and look, here, that's kind of an ascending, it's the start, kind of the start of an ascending triangle there. I don't think that you necessarily need to wait on this to get to 193.5 to take a trade. We can possibly go long on this over 190 up to 193.5. That's a 2% profit margin there. That's enough for a day trade. So even if the stock broke over 190 and did not break 193.5, we could still get a 2% gain or a 20% return on our options contracts if we're trading weekly expirations with a certain delta by trading it long over 190. So I like this setup. I see why you would say 193.5. You definitely can wait on that if you're the trader that likes to wait for confirmation. But I'm slapping this thing on the watch list tomorrow as a long over 190. This is definitely one that I've been eyeing for quite some time as well. So QCOM deserves to be on the watch list as a long idea over 190. By the way, this is just a charting request, but it also happens to be one that I do really like. I love this setup. All right, let's go to the next one. Somebody mentioned, and I'm just picking from the bottom. So if I skip yours and you see me starting to wrap up on one of these stocks, just repost your idea. Just repost it. I'm picking from the bottom here. TSM. We reviewed this one not too long ago. I think we reviewed it when it was down here, and it just kind of took off. All right, so the recent catalyst would be earnings, which caused the stock to gap up, and then it got partially filled, which caused the gap to look like that. So you have a bottom side support around 136, which is perfect because that lines up with this peak over here. So your support would be at 136. Your resistance would be around 144 to 145. Let me look at the history of this stock to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Let me change the time frame to the max available. Okay, so we are truly at, that's a nice breakout. We are truly at the all-time highs here. So 145 would be your resistance. Let me move to the 5-minute time frame. Yeah, I mean, this would work over 144 or 145. I think on this I would just play it safe. I would say your resistance is at 145, your support is at 136, and while it trades, if it trades within that range, there's no need to do anything there's no need to take a position on this stock. You want to really wait until the stock gets to a point where like it absolutely has to make a decision, right? Either it's going to break out and make new highs, or it's going to break down and make new lows. While it's range trading and moving sideways, you don't necessarily want to be trading in that zone, at least as an options trader, because you get caught in chop, right? And sometimes it's hard to tell, is it really going to hit all the way at the bottom, or is it going to stop short? What's going to happen with the name? So I try to avoid ranges as much as possible. And with range breakouts, a resistance breakout or a support breakdown, at least you know that it is truly putting in higher highs or lower lows and should give you a directional move from there. So the way that I would trade TSM personally is I would wait for a break of 145. You could do something a little more aggressive though, and that would be this, to look at this as a possible continuation pattern. So this formation right here, I call this the fish hook pattern. It's a pattern that pushes up, like an aggressive move up at a certain point, meets a level of resistance, and then pulls back, but holds most of the gains for that day by the end of the day. So it looks like a fish hook, right? But it's just upside down. You see the fish hook there? Perfect. So this is a likely continuation pattern because we understand and know that stocks move in waves. It's an up-down motion. So if the stock goes up, then it comes down. The expected move from here would be up, right? Let's pretend that the stock went parabolic all day long and just grinded up and up and up and up and up. And then we never got that pullback. We never got that down movement. The next move in the morning that we would expect if the stock went up all day would be some sort of pullback and then go. So the difference between a fish hook pattern and something that goes parabolic all day is that you actually get the pullback intraday. So the next move that you're looking for is just the go, right? You're just looking for that continuation breakout play. So this is the other way that you could trade TSM. You could say, all right, well, I know that this here is putting in lower highs. And I see the resistance here at 142, which would be my most recent lower high. I would say that that's a resistance at 142 there. So I know 142 is my most recent level of resistance. I know above 142, there's likely resistance around 144. So I could go long, I could go aggressively long on this stock at 142 and trade it up to 144 and just kind of hope that it continues up to 145. That would give you that 2% profit margin there. And if it doesn't, and you fall short, maybe you get a 10% scalp or 15% scalp on this trade, which is still good. That's still a good trade. You're just kind of limited on profit margin. So this would pay, that early entry would pay if the stock continues to go and makes higher highs over 144 or 145 because it's an aggressive entry. But the con to that is that if it doesn't go and it stops short, you don't hit your profit target, which is usually, most of my traders aim for 20%. A couple of ways to trade that. All right. Somebody mentioned LI. What about LI Auto? Yeah, it's a Chinese automaker, automotive stock. So, this one's choppy. This one's tough. Tough to kind of figure out what's going on here because you have big runs up. I see the gaps up and then big drops, choppiness up, drop, up, drop. It's fighting right here. I would say that if I was going to put this on my watch list, I would wait for it to break 133 because I'm looking at this as kind of a range, right? I'm just trying to encompass all of this price action into something that would make sense for me. So what I see that makes sense is that support is down here. Well, really the support is kind of at that 200 EMA, but support is down here near $27, $28, right? So we would call this the support zone, and resistance is up here near 33. For the past month and a half or so, there hasn't been a body candle, a daily bodied candle that's closed over 33. So I would wait for a break of 33 on LI before I added this to the watch list. Joel's asking about mRNA. Yeah, I can chart this one, but I want you to know that mRNA, being Moderna, kind of like the COVID vaccine stock, from a technical standpoint, which is what I'm doing now, technical analysis, it's not going to matter much on a stock that moves primarily on fundamental news, right? So meaning, are they getting FDA approvals on booster shots? Are their vaccines actually working? Are they coming up with new things that could help out with different COVID variants? Their stock really does move on news quite a bit. So from a technical standpoint, the analysis doesn't matter much when you have fundamental factors that affect the stock. But we'll review it anyways. mRNA, big run, massive run here. From 140 up to 490. You're looking at percentage-wise a 244% gain on the stock. Massively overvalued. It came down, rightfully so, right? So this is the correction phase. Earnings dropped it down below that 200 EMA. There was some positive news that came out on it that caused it to gap up, and that news did not hold up. The stock came right back down. So not only did it come right back down, but it actually created a new recent low. So our support leading up to this most recent drop was right at around 220 or so. Maybe we can take it a step further and just base it off this wick and say, well, we had real true support around 210, right? That level has been broken. So the stock fell through 210. It's now at $200. We know what to be true about whole numbers. $200 is a whole number. We know what to be true about them. They act as natural points of support and resistance, right? So if we just drag that line, that trend line right across, look at this. It's not far off. 200 resistance, 200 resistance. Broke over, then what? 200 support, 200 support. Pulled back here, 200 support. Pulled back here, 200 support, 200 support. So from a technical standpoint, mRNA, if it fails to hold 200 as a support, you can probably look to short it as it's creating new recent lows. Otherwise, if it validates 200 as a support, I wouldn't say that I'm bullish on the name. But if it validates as a support, you could look for a short-term reversal move, maybe up to 220 or 230. But yeah, I would think that this is looking weak in my opinion, and I would think that it does break 200 at some point. So I would look for the short below 200. If you're just tuning in, welcome in, welcome in. I'm taking charting requests first, then I will get to my watch list for tomorrow. Let's talk about some Walmart. Asking Diego asked me, Walmart just got into the metaverse, so let's analyze it. The metaverse is what? The fact that they just got into the metaverse is what? Fundamental news, right? So does that news matter? I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. We don't know. With that news and with the market the way that it is, that's kind of like hype news that may or may not sustain. My guess is that it's hype news that may cause a short-term bounce or a gap up in the stock, but I don't know if that news will sustain Walmart if it does gap up. So it's tough to say. I mean, we don't know. We don't know how that news is going to affect the stock price, or even if it affects the stock price at all. So I can't comment really on that news and say yes, it's a good thing or yes, it's a bad thing, because I don't know. We're gonna have to just wait and see how Walmart will react to that news tomorrow. But from a technical standpoint, this is what I can offer you. Walmart has been forming most recently higher lows and lower highs, all converging to this point. I don't know that I would argue that that's a bear pennant, though if we were taking into account this most recent price action, it looks like a bear pennant. The thing that throws me off here is that the stock is not, like, maybe that is a bear pennant, right? But it is validating the 200 EMA as a support, which I talked about earlier and said when a stock's trading above that 200 EMA, it's considered to be in an uptrend. And then we can take this one step further and say Walmart's been trading in a range, right? It's got support at 142 at that 200 EMA and resistance at 145 or 140. Let's just say 140. Yeah, let's just say 146. So not only do we have higher lows and lower highs converging to a point here, but we also have a range on Walmart, and it's validating the 200-day EMA as support. And then on top of that, now we have news. So if Walmart gaps up on this news that it's entering into the metaverse, if Walmart gaps up on this news, what I would look for is something like 146 to validate as a support and higher highs to be put in. So who knows how it's going to react, right? Maybe it gaps up to 147. Maybe it gaps up to 150. Maybe it gaps up to 152. That's going to be a big resistance there on the daily chart. Who knows where this gaps up to? But if it only gaps up a little bit, I would look for 146, 146.5 area, maybe 147 to validate as a support in the event that that news does not sustain and the stock comes down. In the Discord server, under the guides channel, I do have a breakdown on a gap and go strategy. So I would look to implement a gap and go strategy on Walmart if that news is truly positive and causes the stock price to gap up. Otherwise, you'd be looking to implement a gap fill then go strategy. And if the news doesn't affect the stock at all, keep your alerts set where I have them. 146.5 or 147, wait for those higher highs to be put in and trade the breakout of this pennant / range. All right, I'm gonna do a few more. Remember, if I'm just pulling these from the bottom, right? So if you want me, if I'm skipping over your stock, I do apologize. I don't have time to go through every single one of them. But if you want me to review it, just post it up again, repost it. All right, PLTR. Somebody's asking, Sam's asking about that one. From a technical standpoint, this stock looks weak. It really does. On the weekly chart time frame, it's hard to see where the next level of support would be at. I hate to say it, $10 is going to be a big support point for this stock. It's breaking. It really should not have broken like $18 here. That was kind of the kicker. You see this range trading here that was occurring once it broke below 18 as a support. It was just a downhill move from there. Even on the daily, it just looks weak. There's nothing I could say really about this stock other than it's just making lower highs and lower lows, and you're just going to have to patiently wait this out. You have to wait for a break of this downtrend. I have my alerts set on PLTR just above 19. That's where a lot of this range trading was occurring before it dropped below 18. So I would look for, if it gets back up and over 18, that's a good sign. I would look for it to get over 19 or 19.5 back over that 50 EMA for it to be considered in an uptrend. So if you're thinking like, man, PLTR's highs, whereas it's way up here at $45, percentage wise, if I were to buy this at 16 and it runs back to 45, I'm looking at like a 65% gain on my shares. This is a great price for this stock long-term investing wise. Maybe, but you'd also be doing what's considered catching a falling knife, meaning that you're buying at this price point and you don't know if it's going to bounce here and continue to bounce here and give you some gains, or if it's going to continue to fall. Because buying at $16, it could still fall to 10. Then all of a sudden, you're not up 65%. You're down 36%. So it's a tough game. I would wait for confirmation. I would look for a break of 19 on PLTR or 19.5. That's why my alert's set right there. You want to see this in an uptrend first before you start buying into it. All right, somebody is asking about JD, so let's do that one. This is a ticker I have not analyzed this in a long time. So The pullback, break of the downtrend here, not really, but just did a lot of consolidating. Okay, so let's just go most recently. We have support at $62. Support here, support here, support here. Big bounce off of 62, which also caused the stock to break the downtrend trend line. So that's great, right? This is, on PLTR, this is what you would want to see. That long downtrend trend line that I had drawn on PLTR, this is the kind of move that you would want to see on PLTR happening to know, okay, dang, now it's in play, right? Now we have a bottom. Now it's starting to move up. Let's go ahead and find a good entry point on this. So JD broke the downtrend, met support at $62, pushed up, met resistance at $76 to $78. We're just going to call that the 200 EMA. And then this kind of looks like what's known as a bull flag pattern. But it did gap down, so I'd be curious to know maybe what caused that gap down, if it was negative news or what. So there is a gap from 74.5 up to 75.7. Percentage-wise, that might be 2%. It's close, 1.7%. So we're going to flip this to the 5-minute time frame. You do have flat top resistance at 74, but the gap doesn't start till 74.5. So what I would do for JD, if I'm looking at this from a day trade perspective, I would look for a break of 74.5 and trade this long into the gap with a price target of about 75.5 in mind. It's limited profit margin. You're looking at around 1.5% or so. So you would be, just keep that in mind. You would be limited on your profit margin there, but that's how I would day trade something like this. All right. Thank you all for your charting requests. Don't leave yet. I'm going to break down my full watch list for tomorrow. So here we go. All right. Let me type this up in chat. If I didn't get to your questions or to your call outs or your tickers, hey, I apologize. We only have a limited amount of time here. But if you really do want me to give you my thoughts on whatever it is that you're asking about, don't hesitate to message me on Twitter or message me on TikTok or message me on Instagram or on Discord, wherever it is that you follow my content, YouTube, whatever, and ask me to break that stuff down for you. I will happily do that. All right, number one for me making the watch list tomorrow is going to be DWAC, and these are in no particular order, by the way. DWAC's been on my watch list, right? Ever since it had this pop move up, I've been watching it. So we watched it long over 60, ran up to 70. Now we're meeting resistance right around $73, $74. I still think that there's just a ton of potential on this name. If you're looking at this as like a meme stock run, yeah, that's exactly what it is. But look at the chart for AMC. Big run up, not once, but twice, a third time, a fourth time, right? Look at GME. Big run up, not once, but twice, 3, 4, 5 times. Now look at DWAC. Big run up once, maybe twice, maybe a third time. I'm thinking that we're still in the process of this third run here. We did put in higher highs on DWAC. Your next resistance point is around $77, $78. Above that, this runs to 90 in my opinion. So lots of profit margin available here. I don't know if this volume is going to come back in on the name or not. It's a pipe dream that it gets there, yes, but it does still look decent on the 5-minute time frame. I mean, look at that resistance. You can't deny. So what I'm looking for on DWAC is going to be a break of $73 or $74 to go long with a price target of 77 to 78 in mind. Above that, I'll be looking for a price target of probably 85 and then 90. All right, so DWAC, first one on the watch list, no particular order. Long idea over 73 or 74 with a price target of 78 in mind. Number two on my watch list for tomorrow will be MU. So we did a lot of talking about QCOM, right, and how it was consolidating near the all-time highs and that kind of pattern formation or that range formation. We've been watching MU also for a very long time because this has big resistance right at around $97. The stock is now closed with a daily candle over 97. And not just any daily candle. This candlestick right here is known as a bullish engulfing candlestick. So that means that the body of this candle totally engulfs the body of this candle without regard to the wicks. Typically, this is a bullish reversal pattern. So if it's found at like a level of support or on a downtrend, it can signal a reversal. So I don't know how much weight that this holds up here, but what it does tell me is this. MU tried to break 97 on this day, didn't happen, right? Tried to break, got brought right back down. But the buyers stepped right back in and brought it right back up. So now we have resistance at $98 or so. A break of 98, I don't think that this 45 cents here is going to matter much as a resistance point. I think if we get a break of 98 tomorrow on MU, this thing has room to run to 100. So MU will be making the watch list as a long idea over $98 with a profit target of 100 in mind. Number 3 on the watch list for tomorrow will be Netflix. So Netflix had a little bit of news come out on the stock closer towards the end of the day, caused this big pop move from what was this 515 up to 538. And then pulled back and did nothing, right? Consolidated after hours following the close. On the daily chart time frame, Netflix is oversold. And not just regular oversold. I mean, it's kind of really oversold here on the RSI. If we're looking at this from a technical standpoint, look at where Netflix bounced. 510, draw a trend line at 510. Resistance area, it's messy. Let's just say overall 500 being the whole number is your support. So this whole zone right here, I would designate as a support/resistance zone. Trading above it, we come down, support, support, support. Trading below it, we push up, resistance, resistance, resistance. Trading near it, support, support, support. Trading near it, support. Then we have a catalyst come out, which is positive news, causing the stock to run up and big volume to come in the name. We're recently oversold on the RSI on the daily. And earnings is upcoming this week. So lots of potential for Netflix to reverse and lots of room for this to make up from a profit margin standpoint. I'm looking at this as a long idea over 540 with a profit target. I'm going to be conservative here and just say a $10 profit target, 550. Does Netflix have the power to make a larger move than that? Absolutely. Yes. But you know me, I'm all about my base hits, right? Base hits grows that account. 2% gain on your stock, 20% gain on your options contracts. Rinse and repeat that. That's going to grow your account over time. I'm aiming for a $10 profit margin here. So it'll be a long idea on Netflix over 540, given the recent catalyst, with a price target of 550 in mind. All right. We talked about Boeing. So if you missed my analysis on Boeing and you joined the stream late, you can re-watch the stream after I get finished streaming live now. It will be available to you for the next 24 hours. But Boeing definitely makes the watch list tomorrow. It'll be a long idea over $227 for the continuation. And this was I think it was the first one that we went over. So if you have to re-watch the stream to catch that analysis, you don't have to skip through it looking for it. It is the first one. QCOM, this one also definitely makes the watch list. So we have already discussed this in quite some detail, so I won't go over it again. But we will be looking for the break of 190 for the run to 193.5 area. And then above that, we can reassess it for a possible run to 200. The next one is Ford. This should be no surprise to anybody. Ford, I mean, if you're following me for any period of time, we were talking about Ford before it broke $21. We've been talking about Ford ever since it gave us this pop move right here. We were talking about Ford when it was at 19. So now we're up and over 21. Now we've got some momentum behind it. We've got some volume. There was some positive news that came out on this that caused the stock to gap up. We've got the psychological resistance point at 25 being met until Friday. That's when we got the close over that $25 level. So now what's our resistance point? 25.87, right? So what I'm looking for is I'm going to go right off of the high of day here. 25.3 is going to be my long trigger with a profit target in mind of 25.8. That's that 2%, right? I'm trading conservative. Can Ford run beyond that? Yes, and I hope that it does. But hey, as a day trader, I'm trying to get that base hit and get out, right? So I'm looking for a long idea over 25.3, price target of 25.8. I know it's only 50 cents, but think in terms of percentages. That's a 2% move right there. I'll take that all day long. All right, so Ford, continuation play, long idea. And this is, what's the word that I'm looking for? The criteria that needs to be met here for me to even entertain a long idea on Ford is that it has to hold over 25. I don't care what Ford does below 25. I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in shorting it. I'm not interested in trading it long. I'm not interested in trying to get a good price. I don't care what it does below 25. But if it holds over 25 and breaks 25.3, I'm in it. I'm ready to go. All right. I've got two more for you, and then I'm going to end the live stream here. So hang in there. We're almost done. AMD. This is a side chart watch for me. I like AMD as a long-term stock, long-term investment idea. This is not investment advice, but I do personally like it as a long-term idea. Do I think that it's overvalued at these prices? Kind of. I do feel like it is a little overvalued because the run-up that happened was just so quick, right? But I also understand that there's a big demand for AMD and what they do, right? The whole chip shortage thing. So what's going on from a technical standpoint, fundamentals aside, what's going on from a technical standpoint? It's validating 130 as a resistance, as a support, and it's validating that 50 EMA as a resistance. So our most recent high was put in at 140. I'm looking at this as a potential double bottom. So bottom one, neckline, bottom two somewhere, and a break of that neckline. This is what I want to see right there. X marks the spot. I want to see a break of 140. That would give us a break of the downtrend. That would give us a validation of 130 as support. That would give us a break of the 50 EMA, and this is our expected profit margin. So this is not something that necessarily is going to make my watch list tomorrow as a day trade idea, but it will be a side chart item over 140. Especially if the market overall goes green and we have backing on larger tech names. I think AMD offers a decent trade idea. Over 140 though, that's going to be the criteria that has to be met. The last one that I want to review, very simple, is AAL. So I'm not interested in touching this, but much like Boeing, it did this thing where it ran up and then met resistance at the 200 EMA and started forming a range here. So overall support being around roughly 18.2, overall resistance being around 19.4 to 19.6. There is an upcoming catalyst this week, and that's going to be earnings on the 20th. So do I think AAL makes a move before that? I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm just here to read the charts. Could it very well range and do nothing into the earnings report? Yes, that's a possibility too. So I'm just going to make sure that I have straddle alerts set, one above 19.4 and then one below 18.2. I might plan to trade the break of this range if we get it. If we don't, then I'll trade it the day after earnings report and see, if it gaps down or gaps up significantly. We'll just stick with whatever the overall trend is and see if we can put in a higher low. Cool. All right. Thank you all for your time. Quick review. DWAC, MU, Netflix, Boeing, Ford, QCOM, and AMD all making my watch list. AAL is also going to be one that I keep eyes on this week also. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your charting requests. Subscribe to the channel. Press the like button for me if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content and you like the stuff that I put out and this stuff resonates with you. I go live every single week just about on Sunday afternoons. So hopefully you make some money. Good luck this week, and I'll see you all in chat. Take care.